What's up, you guys? Welcome back to Steve's Project Car Garage. My name is Steve. Sitting behind me here is the differential for the 1970 Triumph Spitfire, and we're gonna go ahead and start putting it back together. If you saw the last video, you saw me starting to tear it apart. That video ran a little bit long, so we're here today to go ahead and pick up where we left off and finally get this one put to bed. So stick around, it'll be a good video. All right, so went ahead and sanded this down, and you can see a good bit of pitting right up in here. And I went ahead and I posted a question on some of our Facebook groups about this, and it came back about 50-50. Some said to get a speedy sleeve, and then the other one said not to worry about it because the actual seal itself rides up higher than where it's pitted, and obviously that's why it's pitted. So I did order a speedy sleeve. I'm gonna check it out. I have never actually worked with them before. I'll see if it might address the issue. If it does, great. If it doesn't, then great. I don't know, we'll take a look. I need to really actually kind of do a depth measurement to find out whereabouts that seal sits. And maybe I can get away without it. I don't know. But there is definitely a good bit of pitting there, and there's no sanding in the world that's going to get rid of the pitting. Unfortunately, it's just part of the beast. So, anyways, we're going to put this off to the side for the time being. And we're going to work on these. What I need to do is remove the retaining clip right here. I don't know if you can see that. And once the retaining clip comes off, I can then use my bearing puller to separate this. So I'll be honest, I have been trying to pop this guy off camera, and I've not had a lot of luck. So we're gonna try a few things here to see if we can get it to pop off. And yeah, we'll go from there. So I'm gonna see about just trying to use this little screwdriver here at first.
Many minutes later.
There, finally, after I managed to cut my finger, we got that off. Well, that was fun. Holy cow. Yeah, don't want to have to do that again. But there we go. So now I got to get the bearing separator. And got to pop this bearing off because that's not going to come off easily. Cool. All right, so I put this guy in the vise to try to start popping and separating this thing, and I don't know if I did damage to this or not. Kind of concerned that I may have. Only one way to find out, but it cracked the outer race. So I don't know if I can pry this puppy apart or not now, but
Several days later.
all right, so we're gonna take some lessons learned from this guy and try to not make the same mistakes as I did on the other one on this guy. So we're gonna go ahead and start by trying to remove this little pin, or this ring, this locking ring. Once we get that off, we're gonna go ahead and use our bearing splitter and see if we can get this guy taken off. All right, so I tried playing with the gear puller a little bit to, the bearing separator to get this outer race off. It's not coming off, so we're gonna go a little brutal with it, and we're gonna use the angle grinder to cut it, and then split it with like probably a chisel, because I really don't want to damage this. And then we'll use the bearing puller for the inner race, which should pretty much come right off. So let's go ahead and give this guy a slice and see what kind of damage we can do and not do. I'll set my little pad on fire. Let me actually put this into the vise and then get back to you. There we go. All right, so got that off. We have one bearing set. Look at these nice little ball bearings. All right, now I'm gonna remove those, and now we can actually get the bearing separator on here nicely to where we can actually remove it properly. Okay, so we get a nice and tight fit there. Crank this puppy down. This is how I should have done it the first time on the first one. All right, so I have this in the vise. Let's go ahead and see if we can just give this a couple of turns and pop it. Here we go. There it is. There's one inner race off. Hey, there we go. Look at that. No damage, nice and clean. But man, look at all the grit that's in there. No wonder why this was a noisy bearing. All right, so now we have this guy out. We need to go ahead and remove this old oil seal. So we're gonna go ahead and just use the press and an old socket that fits right in it. And we're just gonna press it out nice and slow. And there we go, nice and easy. Having that press is definitely worthwhile. All right, so now that I've got these bearings apart, it's time to start really kind of cleaning this up. As you saw, I pressed out the oil seals, so those are good. I got to clean this up a little bit, but this looks pretty decent. I want to get it clean enough to be able to paint, so that's kind of going to be part of our mission. But this is the old bearing here as well. Again, the old oil seal. So this is what I marred up before, and I don't think that it's really going to be all that big of a deal because the bearing doesn't ride on this. It just kind of presses up against it. And so I think that it's going to be just fine the way that it is. I really was thinking about replacing it, but after really kind of seeing the way that the bearing, the outer race just kind of sits on it, I don't really think that it's going to make too much of a difference. I did go ahead and file it down though, so that way it's smooth. So that should be good to go in that regard. And then when I hold it up tight, well, there you go. You hold it up tight, you really see that I think it's going to be just fine. But I did learn an important lesson on that one. So lessons learned are always a good thing. So now I think that the next big thing that I need to do is go ahead and just clean this up. Maybe I'll just hit it with the wire wheel real quick and then start planning on putting this thing back together. All right, so I got these guys nicely cleaned up. Hit them with the wire wheel, and really it does make quite a good difference. So these look nice. I'm happy with the way they came out. So I have new oil seals here that I got from Rimmers, and man, these are different from what I pulled out, that's for sure. This is what I pulled out, nice and enclosed, and this is what I got, not so enclosed. So I had to look at their site though to kind of verify which way that these do go on. And so it goes with the opened end out, like that. So I don't know if I'm gonna be able to press these in by hand or if I gotta go over and use the actual press. I'm guessing that I'll have to end up using the actual press. So actually, I'm gonna be smart on this, and I'm gonna take this over to the actual press. And I'm going to do it on the one that is kind of damaged, so that way I don't mess anything up. So let me go ahead and get these pressed in, and I'll be right back. All right, so that's pressed in really nicely. So these will go ahead and slide on like I got it on here. And I should make a nice oil seal there. Excellent. So the next bit is going to be these bearings. So I got brand new bearings again from Rimmers. Let's take a look at these guys here. I mean, these are nice. So these should just pretty much press down right on in. I'll need to get something that I can use to press those on with. So let me go ahead and do a little bit of digging and see what I can come up with. And let's get these guys put on. All right, so this is a good example of why you leave and hang out with old parts. So these are the old inner races, and so I'm going to use these in coordination with an impact socket to be what drives down that bearing. So let me go ahead and get this all set up, and let's get pressing. All right, there we go. That worked out pretty well. So the next thing is to go ahead and drop these circlips on in, and yeah, let's get this started to put back together. Of course, those are nice and easy to put back on in comparison to taking them off, right? I mean, why wouldn't they be? There we go. All right. Those are good to go. All right, so the next thing that we need to do before we get too far into this is to go ahead and get these new bushings pressed on in. My buddy Kyle actually sent me these, or he sold me these. I couldn't find any online, and so he hooked me up with a set of these bushings. So what I need to do now is work on getting those pressed in here without damaging anything. So I'm going to go ahead and take a minute to try to figure out what the best approach is to getting these in, and we're going to get them in. So check in with you in a minute. All right, so by utilizing the press and getting creative with a couple of washers and this guy, I was able to actually do it without putting a lot of pressure on the lobe. Now my concern is though doing the opposite side, because I can't get this tool obviously through there. So I'm going to take a look, see what I can try to do, maybe just setting it like that, pushing it down straight like that. That's probably what I'll end up having to do. But let me go ahead and get cracking on this and I will report back. All right, so I got the other bushings in, and I took some good advice from a couple of people, and I actually went ahead and I test fit this guy in the rear over here. Because apparently trying to get this guy in can be a bit of a pain. And so I was informed that I should try to test fit this before I put the differential case together. And so I'm glad I did, because it was definitely not fitting. So what I did is I took the flap disc and I ended up actually sanding down the bushings just a hair, and now it fits in there nicely, and it still has a nice tight fit, but I won't be fighting to put the differential back together. So now what I'm going to do is I've actually kind of prepped these with some of the Master Series metal prep and rust remover. And I'm going to go ahead and give these a coat of paint. I'm going to do it with just the Master Series Silver. And I'm going to do it while it's split, obviously, to make it a little bit easier. And then that way, when it comes time for reassembly, I can get it all put back together. I don't have to worry about trying to paint it afterwards. So I'm going to go ahead and get myself set up here. We'll throw a couple coats of paint on this, and then we'll start talking about putting it together. All right, so we're back. So we got the outer case of the differential painted up last night, and today we're gonna go ahead and seal it up. So what I've got here in preparation is a paper gasket, which I don't have a whole hell of a lot of faith in, and it's kind of, I don't know, it was bent and it's wonky, but I do have some Permatex, so I think that what I'll end up doing is I'll probably put some Permatex on the main bit, and then we'll lay the paper gasket on top of it, and then we'll set the differential down on it, and then we'll just finger tighten everything. We'll let it sit for an hour, and then we'll go ahead and torque it, and that should work for us. Now I also, somehow my infinite wisdom, forgot to order replacement seals for these. So it's going to be the same deal, where we're just going to go ahead and end up putting on some Permatex along here. Along here rather. And then we'll put them on, and we'll finger tight them, and then we will torque them to spec after an hour. So because I can only do one bit at a time, what we're going to do first is we'll do the top part of the diff. We'll get the main diff done, and then we will go ahead and do the sides. So let me go ahead and get it set up, and we'll get this knocked out. All right, so I already cleaned this down with acetone, and it's as clean as it's gonna get. Same with the other side. So now what I'm gonna do is start laying out some RTV. I haven't used this stuff in ages. So let's just see how we do with it. All right, let's go ahead and set this guy down. Nope, I don't. Dang it. Not really sure why that's not sitting.
A few minutes later.
All right, so I tried that first attempt, and that did not go well. I couldn't get the actual housing to sit on there flat for some reason. So I I removed all the RTV, and yeah. So we're gonna try again, and we'll see if we can make this work. All right, so those are now tightened down finger tight. Let's work on this side. All right, so I have the RTV on here, and let's go ahead and put this together. All right, time to get the other side. All right, so now we're gonna let that sit for an hour, and come back and torque everything down. All right, we're back. It's been an hour, and so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna tighten all these housing bolts down to 20 foot-pounds. So I'll start and just kind of do a start pattern as usual. Alright, so I'm looking here at these guys, and they seemingly do not have a torque spec that I can locate. So we're going to go ahead and just give them a nice snug fit and just go from there. I think that should be plenty fine, but yeah, let's just see what we can do. Alright, so next on the agenda is going to be to fit this guy. Now this is the actual mount itself for the front of the car. There's a little bit of paint on the inside, so I'm just going to use my X-Acto to clean that up real quick. Alright, so we got these bolts here for the mounting plate to the actual differential. These are going to be 38 foot-pounds. I went out and I got new locking washers for all these, and in my absolute infinite wisdom, dropped one, and I can't find it, so I had to clean up one of them with a wire wheel. So here's that. But we'll get these drove home and then torqued, and we'll catch you in a minute. All right, so we now have this torqued down to 38 foot-pounds as required. Now we need to start thinking about getting this flange on here. It does say that I should throw a little bit of oil on the flange bit here before I go ahead and start trying to hammer and press this down. So I'm going to go ahead and do just that. Put a little bit of oil on there, and yeah, make it a little bit easier. Let me just move you out of the way and use a rawhide hammer real quick. See if I can just drive this in. All right. So now I've got it tightened down, but you can see I have the mark that I left right here on the castle nut, and then here's the mark on the actual shaft itself. So we need to tighten it down a little bit more, and so we're going to go ahead and do just that. Let's see if we can get this guy cinched down. So I don't think the focus is working so well, but there we are. We are in. We got that paint mark all lined up, and we're spinning. We're good. Dropping sweat everywhere. One thing I didn't do, and I really should, is get myself a replacement cotter pin. So that's on my shopping list. We will get a new cotter pin for this and get it in there, but we will save that for a different video. All right, well, there we have it. We have the differential put back together. We got it sealed up. We got everything tightened back down. Seems pretty good. I'll probably give it another touch of paint, maybe just clean it up a little bit more, but you know, the RTV kind of made a bit of a mess, but that's not my biggest concern, as long as the RTV holds and it doesn't leak, because after all, we don't want it to leak. So let's go ahead and wrap up this video. All right, so with the differential now being all resealed, I'm going to let the RTV cure up, and then I'll go ahead and I'll fill it up with some fluid. It needs at least 24 hours before you go ahead and add fluid and put it back into service. So obviously it's not going back into service anytime soon, but I do want to get some oil in there and just make sure I can leak test it to make sure that I don't have leaks anywhere. Because last thing I want to do is install this guy and then find out that it's leaking like a sieve. It's easier to take apart here on the bench without having it installed. So anyways, that's going to be doing it for this video. I'm going to be working on another little project for my son, actually. I'll give you a little sneak peek here. Lightning McQueen's in the garage, and I'm excited about this. It's going to be a fun little project I'm doing for him. We got this from a neighbor for free. They put a 12-volt battery into it. It's supposed to be 6-volt, but it's got a 12-volt motor. So I'm going to go ahead and put a speed control in there and make sure that it's nice and safe for Emerson. We're going to clean it on up, put some new decals on it, and let it rip tater chip. So stick around. That'll be a fun little off-series video. As far as the Spitfire is concerned, now we got the diff put back together. I'm going to leak test it like I was saying. Go ahead and put it back into the Spit itself and start reassembling the rear end, and then we'll have pretty much a rolling chassis. So if you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, click the bell to get those post notifications. And remember, when working on project cars like this, give it your best shot, but don't be that dreaded previous owner and take those shortcuts. Cheers.